Yeah, it was. It was definitely packed. I did notice two players hanging out in the back of the room, and they were Jason Kelsey and Connor Barwin, very eager to kind of watch and see this unfold in front of their own eyes here down at the facility. Other than that, it was definitely packed full of media from every outlet you can imagine, as well as all the people, in the front office were there, of course, to show their support. I would say that the mood was from the people within the Eagles organization very upbeat. You could tell the media was certainly trying to find some more things out about this process, about the hire went on, and was Doug Pederson, in fact, Jeffrey Lorry's first choice. And in the end, I think we learned some things. Of course, Pederson himself introduced Schwartz as the new defensive coordinator, and we knew that he was in town talking, but that move has been made. And honestly, I think the most intriguing stuff to me was hearing from Schwartz that he's not committed to a certain scheme, and he's going to play what works best for these guys. But what I him was how much he wants to bring pressure as much as possible, and if he can do it without blitzing, he likes the people that are here, and that's something he's going to try to do. Pederson, to me, I really liked what he had to say about Sam Bradford. He's got to wait to talk to him and hear what he has to say to him face to face. But I think that from what I gathered today, Pederson would like to have Bradford on this roster.
I agree. Let me start from the beginning. Jeff Lorry spoke, and he said a smart, strategic thinker. He's comfortable in his own skin. He's worked with quarterbacks. It almost sounded like he was trying to go out of his way to make sure you knew that this was the exact opposite of who Chip Kelly was.
Yeah, and I think we were able to all kind of deduce that ourselves. But, yeah, you're right. I thought that he did the same thing. He went out of his way to point out that he fit all the boxes of the things that he listed the day that he fired Chip Kelly and announced that to the media. And he went through and listed them all again for us, so we knew what those boxes were that Pederson checked off. What I have to say from being in the room, I thought Pederson did a really good job of commanding the room, so to speak. I thought he handled himself very well. And to me, he wasn't intimidated by anything that went on. And, of course, with this being his first head coaching position, I wondered how he'd handle this.
Do you feel that it was fair that he was getting questioned about the clock management late in the Chiefs game? I mean, against the Patriots, was that a fair question? Was there a lot of tension in the room at that moment?
I thought it was a fair question. I thought he handled it well. Seemed like he had an answer ready. I think he probably knew he was going to get that question. Whether or not, here's where I differ as far as what may come out of it. I don't necessarily believe his answer. I don't know that was him. I still think that was Andy Reid, and he's not going to throw the guy who gave him really helped get this job for him. He's not going to throw that guy under the bus. Mm-hmm. Andy never threw anybody under the bus. To me, it was an Andy Reid answer to the question.
Well, he also admitted that he called plays in the second half of games, really, since the Steelers game for them. So I guess the thought process that he wasn't calling plays is kind of a little bit of a myth, because it sounds like that he did have a lot of experience, maybe not a ton, but does have some, and he did say he will call plays for the Eagles.
Yes, he did say he will call plays, said he's still interviewing candidates for the offensive coordinator position, so he didn't go into much detail there. But he does want to run, a West Coast offense, and he feels like he has the pieces in place here that'll help, do what he wants to do. One thing I found very interesting was when he was asked about DeMarco Murray, Pederson described him as a downhill runner. Well, we all kind of knew that, apparently everybody but Chip Kelly. So interesting to hear that Pederson already recognizes that, without saying it, he said DeMarco Murray wasn't used properly, and he intends to use him that way.
Scott Grayson's there. So much to get into on Pederson. I thought it was pretty interesting, but I do want to get your thoughts because you said you got a chance to talk to Jim Schwartz. And, I'm surprised a little bit by what you said, that he's open to not surprised, but a lot of people worried because the word wide nine. I don't think it worked out well the last time, mainly because of coordinator and situation. Is this a better spot to be using that wide nine scheme that Jim Schwartz most likely will bring to the Eagles?
Well, he raved about several people. He went out of his way to point out key guys that will help dictate what kind of scheme they ultimately run, based on how they go through OTAs and spring practices and things like that. He highlighted Brandon Graham. He highlighted Fletcher Cox especially. He talked about even Cedric Thornton, and he said he's a guy who's not under contract right now, but he said that he's a guy he'd like to have. to me, I don't know if he's going to employ the wide nine here or not, but he talked vividly about bringing pressure, and if he's able to do it with the guys that are here, which that's when he kind of rattled off those names, without having to blitz, he said it makes the defense even better. So I think ultimately he's going to go with a 4-3. And you may remember, Mike, from my conversations with some of the players after the finale, that they were pretty happy about an idea or thoughts about going to a 4-3. So I think he's going to have a 4-3 defense, and he may run certain principles off of it that vary into other ways, like a wide nine on occasion. I don't know if he's going to go that way or not. He made it sound like he's not going to commit to anything about that until after he's gotten a chance to run the players through various things in OTAs.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people hear Y9 and kind of cringe a little bit, but that was a Jim Washburn creation, and then a Juan Castillo being basically thrown into the fire with no coordinator experience, and then being told, "Hey, this is what you're going to run." But that being said, Fletcher Cox I think would be great in this situation. Jordan Hicks would really be an interesting guy. But how about Marcus Smith? Howie Roseman today fully admitted that he took responsibility for drafting Marcus Smith. I mean, he finally said, yes, that was me. It seems that they're going to do a search for a personnel director. It seemed like a little tense moment there, Scott, when Jeffrey Lorry was continuously asked about that situation. But I thought that was an interesting part of this whole thing, that Pederson kind of said, well, I have some say, and Howie has some say. Well, who breaks the tie? Well, that's Lorry. So it seems like there is still no streamlined answer as who's in charge of personnel up there.
Yeah, and Lorry did say that he basically vows to lay out how the accountability is going to all work once his player personnel director is hired. That was news today, getting that information and hearing that there's going to be another person added. Basically, it sounds like it's another person that, well, I can't really say what it, to me, it sounds like it's going to be a person that's buffer between Pederson and Roseman, but it was very interesting, and I kept watching Howie Roseman as these questions were being fired off to Lorry, just to see if he reacted in any way.
Good job.
He sat there stone-faced. I mean, he did not move or budge or show any emotion about the line of questioning. But Lorry said there's going to be accountability for everybody, including Howie Roseman.
Scott Grayson at the NovaCare Center today. Pederson also, as you kind of alluded to, he really seemed to suggest that Bradford was not only a perfect fit for his offense, it almost seemed like down the line he talked as if he was planning on having Bradford there. Did you feel that as well?
I did. It wasn't in the same line of questioning, but a franchise quarterback obviously did come up at some point, not tied directly to Bradford being that guy. But everybody wants a franchise quarterback in this league. And the way Pederson talked about Bradford, it sounds like, my guess is he's going to call Bradford sometime this week and just start talking to him, opening up the dialogue. I get the sense that Pederson would rather try to go through what he needs out of a quarterback in Sam Bradford than what the alternatives are out there. And we've talked about that before. There's just not many options unless you want to go in the draft. And I don't think Pederson wants that. I don't think he wants to start with a rookie. I get the sense that he really wants to try to see what he can do with Bradford. Seemed like he really pointed out the second half of the season that Bradford had. At first he opened it up and in the press conference kind of noted that, he's got to wait and see and evaluate everything on Bradford. And then I found it odd that later on he virtually raved about Bradford. So it sounded like his evaluation had already happened, and he was trying to keep that a little bit more in the background. So, yeah, I'd be shocked at this point if Pederson didn't have Bradford. It certainly sounds to me like that's what he wants.
Scott Grayson is live. He'll have more at the top of the hour with South Jersey Sports Centers, and we'll, of course, talk to John coming up as well. But really good stuff. And last one, real fast. I thought another interesting take from this day was, they hired Schwartz. You've heard a lot about Frank Reich. He talked about Phipp. He brought back Stoutland. But he did not confirm that Deuce Staley was coming back, and he said that the rest of the staff all under evaluation.
Yes, I thought it was interesting that Deuce Staley's name was not one of the ones mentioned as coming back either, because there have been some reports indicating otherwise. But didn't say that he wasn't going to have him, but basically said that there's evaluations going on everybody at this point. And it's very interesting that he wasn't one of the guys, because Lorry has always seemed to be so enamored I guess is the right word, with Deuce Staley. So, yeah, Pederson's working to get his staff completed, and obviously they need to get that done sooner rather than later because there's already things that are coming down the pipe as far as evaluating the draft and players, the Senior Bowl. So they need to get this all figured out.
I agree. Scott Grayson with us here. So the staff not complete, but Jim Schwartz is. He will be the new defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. That we know. We'll also have plenty more on this story coming up throughout the day here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, Scott will have South Jersey Sports Center coming up at the top of the hour. Thank you, Scott.
No problem, Mike.